Welcome to the Steele Creek Explorer. I'm your host, Jeremy Stout. Have you ever wanted to keep a turtle as a pet? Don't. Don't keep turtles as pets. And if you have to, please do it responsibly. Well, that may sound like an awfully hypocritical thing for me to say as I stand here in front of 1,000 gallons of turtle tanks behind me. But yes, turtles and tortoises, as a general rule, do not make good pets. And we'll talk about why here in just a few moments. But first, some things to remember about the Nature Center at Steele Creek Park here is that yes, we do have a number of live animals. All of our animals are acquired and they are permitted by state and sometimes federal agencies. Many of our animals began their life as wild animals. There's a reason why they have to be with us here at the Nature Center and can't go back into the environments where they belong. We also at the Nature Center have staff whose primary job, their reason for coming to work day in and day out is to take care of our aquatic and our terrestrial environments. So even a small turtle, that's the number one thing we're going to talk about is people will often buy turtles on an impulse and they buy them when they're babies. Everything starts off life small. It starts off, many of our turtles, the size of a quarter or even smaller. A lot of times they used to be widely available in those, what I call the junk stores at the beach. Would oftentimes sell little baby turtles and things. So you go on vacation, you find these adorable little turtles, you bring them home. Maybe you don't realize that that turtle is going to grow to be the size of a dinner plate someday. It may have a 40-year lifespan, and it's going to need a large and expensive enclosure. It's going to need filtration systems. It's going to need adequate space. All of these things mean that turtles, for most homeowners, for most pet keepers, there are plenty of reptiles out there that make great pets. Turtles and tortoises are not those reptiles for most hobbyists. So let's think about this a little bit more. First, I mentioned turtles are long-lived. Okay, at first glance, that sounds like a good thing, right? Oh my goodness, wouldn't it be great if we had a pet that lived so much longer than our cats and dogs that are our typical pets? Yeah, that is a good thing. Being long-lived means that the pet can potentially provide lots of enjoyment and a fulfilling pet experience for you for most of your life. But that's the other part about it, is when people get a pet turtle, they're not counting on the long haul requirements for that animal. So if you plan to keep the turtle your entire life, go ahead and plan on who's going to take that turtle after maybe you're gone. Because a turtle with a 40-year lifespan might live longer than you. So that's the first thing to consider. The other thing to consider is how that animal's needs are going to change as it grows. I'll take you inside our aquarium island and show you some of what we have for the turtles you see behind me. But remember, they are going to need an enclosure that is much larger than they are. So all of our smallest aquariums here at the Nature Center are 115-gallon capacity. That's a big aquarium. You got to make sure you got space in your home. There's a common myth out there that turtles and reptiles in general will only grow to the size of their enclosure. That's false. What the saying should be is reptiles will die to the size of their enclosure. because they don't stop growing when they grow to the ends of their environment. They just stop being healthy at that point. So you need to have adequate space. You need to have a clean environment. If it's an aquatic turtle, it has to have mostly water to swim in. It has to have a basking platform. You have to provide that animal with a temperature gradient. It needs to be warm on one end and cooler on the other end. You need to provide a basking spotlight for most aquatic turtles. If you buy a young turtle, or if you're gifted a young turtle, you're not only going to have to provide warmth in the form of a lamp, you're going to have to provide UV radiation. You're going to have to get a specialty reptile basking bulb because it needs UV light, something that it finds from the sun in nature, but we have to provide artificially in captivity, or it will develop diseases as it grows. So all of these things are investments that are going to have to be made on the front end, and upkeep that's going to have to continue to be maintained as the turtle grows and thrives. So here's a good example to show you some of the needs of some captive turtles that we have here at the Nature Center. You can see two of our Midland painted turtles. This is a native species that can actually be found in our area naturally. A number of our turtles, we'll show you in a moment, are here unnaturally, and we'll talk about why. But here you can see that they are basking on their basking platform. We have an artificial heat light for them. These turtles, even though they look small, they're actually fully grown. So these particular turtles are past their need for UV radiation, but they do need a warm place to bask. Remember that turtles are ectotherms. That means outside heat. An old term we used to use was cold-blooded. They can't make their heat inside their body, and so we have to provide that basking platform artificially. Another thing I'll show you, and this is where a lot of novice turtle owners make a lot of mistakes, is that when you look at this aquarium, you notice that it is very much an aquarium. A lot of the turtles, especially turtles associated with the pet trade, are aquatic turtles. They have flat pancake-shaped shells. They have webbed fingers and toes. They live in the water. So as you can see here, there's a relatively small amount of land. That's just the basking platform. Most of the space is utilized as an area for the turtles to swim and dive. That's where they live most of their lives. You also notice some substrate and an aquarium intake and outflow. We'll show you some of those guts a little more closely here in just a second. All right, well, I just showed you the outside of the aquarium where anybody who visits the Nature Center in our open hours can visit our turtles and see them. Now I'm bringing you into the inner sanctum, the aquarium control room. We actually have all of our aquariums arranged in a circular position around the floor. And so this is our inside maintenance area. It's not a place that you get to see every day, so I hope you enjoy it. But here you're looking at the back of our turtle aquarium. And so it looks very different. You're actually looking at the back wall. We had that textured rock surface that you saw in the front view. But here is the back side of the tank. And you can really start to get a sense for how involved this system is. Now, granted, the Nature Center has done things above and beyond, probably something that's not feasible for the homeowner or reptile hobbyist to do. But it does give you an idea of the level of involvement that's required to keep these animals healthy and happy. So you're looking at the back of our 115-gallon aquarium, and you actually see some plumbing, and we'll take you to the filter in a second. This pipe right here is actually the inflow. It's what takes the clean water back to the aquarium. Now let's go down and see the filtration system that's actually powering this pump. Okay, so here you can see the guts of our turtle tank operation right here. So we have this inflow pipe that's behind me here, I showed you that's what gives the clean filtered water back to the tank. Our drain has a strainer and a guard on it on the inside of the tank, but the water comes out from the underside of the tank to go into the filter. Now, you might notice that this is a pretty large filter. This is another area where turtle keepers oftentimes go wrong. You almost certainly need more filtration than you think you do. So for even a small at maturity aquatic turtle, about the minimum size tank that's going to do that turtle would be a 50-gallon aquarium. So we're talking about a pretty big aquarium even for a relatively small turtle. So you might be thinking, oh, you see filters, you buy filters online, you buy them at your local department store, and you think, oh, well, if my aquarium is X gallons, then that means I need a filter that's rated for X gallons. That's incorrect. Filters are rated for keeping fish. Turtles are not fish, they're reptiles. Turtles have a much larger waste load on their aquarium than fish do. So what I'm saying is the amount of filter you need is actually double the tank that you have, okay? So we have our painted turtles in a 115-gallon aquarium. This is a filter that's rated for 300 gallons. So that's a little bit more than maybe we need, but you need at least twice the filtration to keep a turtle happy and healthy than the gallons of your aquarium. And that's assuming that you have an appropriate sized aquarium for that turtle to begin with. So as you can see, the involvement and the cost starts to go up tremendously whenever you start talking about keeping a turtle and keeping it properly. So now, let's get out of the aquarium control room, let's get outside into Steele Creek Park, and let me show you what can go wrong when irresponsible people keep turtles as pets. I'm here at the aptly named turtle log that you can see behind me. This is an excellent place that we've shown you many times before on the show where you can find lots of turtles, both native and non-native. You can find native turtles that'll be basking on this log. As I mentioned inside, turtles need to get their heat externally from outside their bodies. So places where they can come out of the water to bask in the sunshine is a great place to find them. Now, while you can find some of our native turtles here, like painted turtles and occasionally a false map turtle, or possibly even a soft shell or snapping turtle, the vast majority of the turtles that you'll find here on the turtle log are non-native turtles, turtles that were introduced to this region and to Steele Creek Park. So how did they get here? So what happens when an unwanted turtle is kept as a pet, or if someone is no longer able to care for a pet turtle? Well, unfortunately, what was most common in the past is that the turtle owner would just go to their nearest creek or lake or river and turn the poor turtle loose. As you can imagine, this is not good for the turtle. Many of them undoubtedly died because they weren't acclimated to the climate or to the space. But what's possibly even a fate worse than the death of the turtle is that the turtles actually have been able to survive and thrive. Red-eared sliders, yellow-bellied sliders, river cooters, those are all turtles that are not native to Northeast Tennessee or Southwest Virginia. And yet here in Steele Creek Park, those make up the bulk of the turtles you can find here. Turtles like these sliders you see here are the descendants of turtles that were irresponsibly kept as pets and even more irresponsibly released into the wild. Well, here's another terrible thing to do with a pet turtle, and it's a terrible thing to do to another human being. Unfortunately, the Nature Center has received notes like this alongside unwanted pet turtles just left at the doorstep. This is terrible for the turtle because, for one thing, the Nature Center in most cases cannot care for your animal. Don't just leave your unwanted turtles with someone else. As I mentioned before, all of our animals in the Nature Center are part of a permit that we have to apply for every year. If you leave an animal with us, it almost certainly will be forfeited over to the state agencies and in many cases euthanized. So this is not the appropriate thing to do, is to leave a passive-aggressive note along with a turtle that you can't care for. That's terrible for your pet, and it's also a bad thing to do to another person. Well, I've shown you how we care for some of our turtles here at the Nature Center, and hopefully giving you some pointers on what to do, and maybe more importantly, what not to do if you insist on keeping turtles yourself at home, or if you've already got turtles and you don't know what to do with. I can't stress enough how important it is to not release your pet turtles into the wild if you can no longer care for them. Don't leave them as a baby in a basket on the doorstep of a nature center or someone else. If you have a pet turtle, then it is your burden to care for that animal. And that's why I recommend against keeping them for most pet owners. Turtles just do not make the best pets. And so when the turtle's not well cared for, it's not doing well, it's not having fun, you're not having fun, no one's having fun. There are, however, pet reptiles that I cannot recommend highly enough. I would never want to discourage you from having away from having a pet reptile. You know who make the best pets as reptiles? Snakes. Snakes like maybe this captive bred corn snake here. It's the last thing I want to mention is whether it's turtles or any other animal, remember that it is against the law to collect animals from the wild and keep them as pets. So however you're responsibly keeping your pets, make sure that you buy them or obtain them from a legitimate source. Don't go out into the woods to find your own. But do come out to Steele Creek Park and the Nature Center. Come see our turtles, because here's where you can be the explorer.